Look at this. We're back for episode number 2 of the Claw Pod. My name is the Ant-Man. We've got Ross and Marshall Von Erich, the guys that you're here to see or here to hear from. Thank you guys for joining us. And I'm glad they asked us back. I'm not sure who they are, but they've asked us, maybe it's fans. They've asked us back to be here for episode number 2, guys. Can you believe it?
They keep wanting it. We keep giving it to them.
We know why they really asked. They're here for the Ant-Man. It was unfortunate. I was a little down about
Hardly.
it, but our female audience skyrocketing right now. Thank you,
Hardly. They're still wondering who this other guy is. So I was gonna go on the very first episode. I didn't know how you guys would feel about this, but I was gonna tell everybody I was your cousin. I was Lane Von Erich.
Perfect.
Can we not do that? We shouldn't do that.
Yeah, we got to keep the L tradition going.
Have to. Yeah.
Lenny.
I'm Lance's son.
Yeah. Larry.
Man, I will say this. You guys who are watching or listening right now, your views took us to well over 1,000 for our very first episode on YouTube. Your listens ranked us in the top 40 of all pro wrestling podcasts for episode number 1.
The first episode. That's insane.
Yeah. Only one episode is out, and we thank you so much for that. That's not what we expected. We just expected to get this thing out and say, man, thank you guys so much for checking it out, but you've blown us away. So keep that up. We appreciate that so much. If you're watching right now on YouTube, give it a like, give it a subscribe so you never miss an episode. Speaking on that real quick, we had several people ask, so when can I watch next week's? Well, just because we say that it comes out at 6 a.m. doesn't mean you miss it if you get on at 6:30 a.m. It will drop at 6 a.m. every Thursday, or at least that's our plan anyway. But anytime after 6 a.m., you can watch it. You can watch it on Thursday. You can watch it on Friday. You can watch it over the weekend. I mean, college football wrapping up. You were used to watching that. Okay, we'll jump over and watch the Claw Pod and hang out with us. So just to kind of clarify that for a few people. If you're listening right now, thank you so much. You can listen to it on the iHeartRadio app. You can listen to it or watch it on Spotify. You can also listen to it on Apple Podcasts or wherever else that you love to listen to podcasts. Today, our topic is, well, 6-man tag. You guys are the 6-man tag champs with Dustin Rhodes, with Ring of Honor. And we're going to talk a little bit of that here in just a bit. First, I want to hit rewind and talk about a little bit of the history of the 6-man tag titles. Now, tag teams were hot, especially in the 80s and 90s. I mean, some tag teams were hotter than singles competitors in some instances. Road Warriors, Fantastics, Freebirds were more than a tag team. And we're going to talk a lot about them coming up, of course. But you also had Midnight Express. Who am I missing, guy? I said Road Warriors, right? Who else am I missing? Ross, you got somebody?
Rock and Roll Express. You said
thank you. Yes, of course. Yeah. Love those guys.
But
I remember I used to.
It's cool.
The reason I wore bandanas, so it would tie them around my arms and my legs. Was Rock and Roll Express. Yeah.
It's a good idea.
That's cool that those tag teams brought that flashiness, that flair, because I was wondering where my Uncle Kerry got the tassels and stuff like that. But that's
WWE,
weird. That's the kind of stuff that grabs you. Yeah, it's the kind of stuff that grabs you as a kid. And Ross and I were talking, like, he moved so different. He moved so different. And a lot of those guys back then, just their body language was just different. And I always, I was curious is if that's the landscape back then, because there wasn't internet or anything like that. Everyone has such crazy entries into the wrestling world back then, and nowadays it just seems like everybody watched it on the computer and became a fan and started doing it. But I love hearing the background stories of wrestlers back then.
For sure. 6-man was not as hot unless it was, you guessed it, the Von Erich family. Because between the Von Erichs and the Freebirds in world-class championship wrestling, out of the 19 different reigns in its existence, 17 of those 19 reigns were either the Von Erichs or the Freebirds. How crazy is that? That tells you how hot those two were.
That is wow. I wouldn't even.
Dang, man, I didn't. Ross, what's crazy is we probably identify way more as a 6-man than a tag team. I was thinking, Uncle Dave, Uncle Kerry, Dad. Yeah. That was like their staple and their signature was the three of them together. So a 6-man with Dustin and stuff, I'm realizing it feels really natural. We always felt like we we always had a pretend brother, Ryan. We always called him when we were kids and stuff.
Yeah.
So
like we needed a third
Dustin's
guy.
that Ryan right now. Yeah.
Well, the first 6-man tag champs on record for World Class Championship Wrestling were the Freebirds, Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, and Buddy Roberts. That configuration specifically, they won them at Christmas Star Wars on December 25th back in 1982. That's when they were introduced at World Class. They defeated Iron Mike Sharp, Ben Sharp, and Tom Steele, but this is going to sound strange when I first say it, not all 3 members were actually Freebirds then, though. It was actually your Uncle David who filled in for Buddy Roberts because they said that he had some travel issues.
Wow.
And after winning, David immediately gave up his claim on that 3rd title and gave it to Buddy that night. How cool is that?
That's pretty awesome.
Dang, man, I didn't know. Yeah, I remember as far as creative wise, dude, that's genius. To when you just put 2 guys against each other and there's no animosity, but when you start a friendship first and then someone gets wronged, that's freaking awesome. And I didn't know Uncle Dave relinquished the belt. I didn't know that. That would, as a fan, that would be that shows he's selfless. He did it for the guys. This is a real friendship, a real relationship.
Yeah,
and then you see that squandered.
A babyface move for sure. Yeah.
Babyface move for sure. You're exactly right. And it was set up for it just to really tie those 2 teams together, the Von Erichs and the Freebirds of being best of friends, so that when the unjust turn or the stab in the back happened, it makes it even that much worse. Not only it's not just a good guy versus a bad guy, it's a friend against a friend, or someone who I thought was a friend now turning their back on me. And that right there, I think really helped. And some of the psychology they don't see so much. We don't take a lot of time in today's wrestling. They could do that back then. It was, I mean, the show was only an hour and literally 30 to 40 minutes was taken up by this feud, which is completely fine. But it is what made it what it was. And the reason it made it so personal for fans too was because of, I thought you guys were best friends and Freebirds. Yeah. Why would you turn on them? That comes obviously later. There were various combinations of Freebirds and Von Erichs that held the titles. 17 of the 19 reigns were them. Now, your father, Kevin, held it a total of 11 times. And check out these combinations. Your grandfather, Fritz, Uncle Kerry, David, Mike, Michael Hayes. That's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Brian Adias, Chris Adams, gentleman Chris Adams, and Steve Simpson. And if it's not too taboo to say, I know I kind of mentioned it at the top, there's also one with Lance Von Erich.
He's smart at picking the right partners, picking the right partners. Ross, we need to get that off get that out of Dad's brain and find the right partners to team up with. If we're not able to win tag belts, we'll just find guys that are better than us. And team up with
plan.
And team up for 6-man. Absolutely. You guys are the current Ring of Honor 6-man tag champs, as I mentioned before, and we've talked about in the first episode too with Dustin Rhodes. Dustin, his father, Dusty, had 2 reigns, not in World Class, but in the NWA. One of those reigns went from May of 86 to February of 88, and that was with the Road Warriors. How crazy is that?
Man,
did you ever know that they were 6-man champs?
Dang, man.
I just learned that within the last month or so, but man, how cool is that? That's
from May of 1986 to February of 88. I mean, just a long time. And then they had another one just shortly after that was much shorter as well. You guys won your 6-man titles at Battle of the Belts 11. You and Dustin faced the Undisputed Kingdom. Matt got in your dad's face, and Shibata came to the rescue. Thought that was a nice touch there. So, incredible ending after the win with the locker room all coming out to celebrate with you guys. Ross, I don't know if you meant to do this. I'm sorry, Marshall, I don't know if you meant to do this, but so in Ring of Honor, it's a tradition to throw the streamers. I mean, they're the big rolls, and it's just the birthday streamers, the different colored ones, and people chunk those in the ring when something big happens. And Marshall, I don't know if you meant to or if you were eyeing it or what have you, but I see a shot of you catching one and continuing the throw across the ring and into the other side, and it's purple or red or something. Was that something you were thinking about in the moment when you saw it coming towards you, or was it just instinct?
It was instinct at the time, but my dad said he said that the coolest things always happen either before or after a match, and especially when fans will like throw stuff in. But I remember it was in Japan. Ross and I were sitting there talking to each other. It was right before the match, and they said our names and they threw streamers. And at the exact same time, we put our hands up and we both caught a streamer, and it just looked really cool, like right on the same time.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to relive that moment. And so unfortunately there was only one streamer that time. So Ross couldn't get his kick, but
Marshall,
it was pretty sick.
Do you remember this? I think it was SummerSlam in Nashville, and it was Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and Brock drives the tractor front end loader down to the ring, and he ends up using it a little bit later on. But he's in the bucket up top, and he's talking, and he flips the mic to Roman, and Roman just casually reaches up and catches it, and then winks.
I did see that.
Yeah,
that was beautiful.
That's one of those favorite type of thing in pro wrestling. I love that stuff because like Mr. Perfect was great at it, spitting the gum out and slapping it.
Yep. Yeah, it was all fun. Ross, let me ask you a question. Take me back to before the match and then what it felt like winning those 6-man tag titles with Dustin in the ring and your father watching on the outside.
Man, it was huge. I remember the atmosphere going into it, a lot of nerves, obviously. And then, man, the coolest thing at the end of it was going back and thinking, did Shibata just come out there and like help us out or like have her back or whatever? So that was pretty cool. And then, just obviously having my dad there and, the meaning behind all that. And then having so many of the fans that were there to witness the 80s, because they're not going to be here forever. And to have, a main event in Dallas, on a major stage and have, to relive that with all those fans that, are now there with their kids or grandkids or whatever. Man, it just, it kind of transcends wrestling. And I think we want to kind of just build off of that, and kind of, cause we've noticed, since the movie came out, there was kind of a lot of, there's almost a narrative the movie put out, there's a curse or something, and we're kind of just our mission is to disprove that, one step at a time. And I think AEW was kind of the beginning of that. And then, my brother mentioned, in his promo after the match that, where the age is that my, uncles, they passed away at this age that we are now. And so it kind of feels like we're, picking up the torch and like classic Von Erich legacy, we just want to be good guys. That's the, as cheesy or whatever it is, we feel like it's our role to just be, the good guys in wrestling. And the reality of it is sometimes we're almost doing, not restoring the, the grandeur or whatever it is, but we're just, we're working to, doing our part to, etch it in history and build off of it. But anyway, that was an awesome night, man. And hopefully a lot of cool, awesome moments like that in store ahead too.
Marshall, let me ask you, what did it mean to you guys to you specifically to headline Battle of the Belts 11 with Dustin, be able to do it in Dallas, have your dad so close to witness it all and take home gold at the end of the night?
Man, that's just been our wrestling careers have been just surreal moments. And it seems like it's getting bigger and bigger, which Ross and I, we're ready for it. We're ready for it because, there you have parents. If this encourages any parent to speak life into your kids, my mom, when we were kids, she would speak life into us big time. Just say you're going to be kings like your father. You're going to be great. The latter will be greater than the former. And she would just put this on us, and it brainwashed us, man. We really thought like God has a purpose for us. We're going to be used on a grand scale, big scale. And right now we see that pro wrestling is the platform God is using, but that's not our identity as pro wrestlers. We're followers of Christ. We're brothers, fathers, sons, all that. And pro wrestling is this tool that God has used tremendously in our families' lives and our lives. And it's so cool to see the lessons that my dad has, taken from wrestling and the man that he's developed into, and he's watching us go through the same, like upbringing or whatever. And my dad, same thing. When we told him we want to be pro wrestlers, and he's like, "Are you sure?" He was really serious about asking us.
Sure.
And we said, "Yes, sir, we want to do it." And he was like, "I moved you guys 3,000 miles away from wrestling, and you guys are wanting to go back." And we were out in the middle of the Pacific, and so we told Dad we wanted to do it, and it's nothing's ever felt so natural in my entire life. Ross and I, we've always just been awkward athletes. We've been we're decent at football. We were faster than the big guys, stronger than the little guys. It was just like, what's our spot? And we were like good at random stuff, like throwing discus. Ross was great at throwing discus and other stuff, but it was like, man, what's our thing? And then we find pro wrestling. And it's like all of our weird attributes. We can jump high, we can, we're pretty athletic. And so it was like, man, all this stuff we can use now. Thank you, God, and then, but wrestling is just it's a platform that we get to use. And when we get to headline and stuff like that, it's, this attempt great things for the Lord, expect great things for the Lord. And so we think it's going to get a lot bigger and even a lot bigger than this. And this is only the beginning. And Tony Khan believed in us. He took this chance on us, and he will not regret it, because it's divine. We didn't do this. God did. We're just the two knuckleheads that are in these bodies that are they're trying to honor our family name. And so, Tony, you made a good decision. We will leave everything we have in that ring.
That's the most positive brainwashed has ever been used in an analogy, I think, or I think you just gave us right there.
Yeah. You suck. Yeah.
That was good. Yeah, absolutely. Ross, let me ask you this, looking forward. I mean, this is now that your brother's healthy, now that you guys have had a little time off, and now that you're officially all elite, it's all going to come fast. Let me ask you, how especially in a moment like that, in a night like that, where you won the Ring of Honor 6-man tag titles, how do you not let the night go by too fast for you? How do you slow things down?
Yeah, that was a struggle, man, because immediately you think about, like, what are the implications now that we're the champions here at Ring of Honor, which was, man, such a huge milestone for us. Ring of Honor has always been like up there in our eyes, because we would watch it from Japan, and it was
a lot of great guys have made a name for themselves starting in Ring of Honor.
100%. Yeah. The history is incredible. Like I said, it was a struggle, but it's just, I think we'd been through enough victories and defeats to kind of know, now's a pretty good time to, sit back and admire your work a little bit, at least for the night. We wanted to, finish that night off right. So we went to IHOP, our normal.
Yeah, good.
Dad has, like, with the past that he's had, he's instilled in us to live in the moment and, just take, each life's made of moments, And so when we had Dad's retirement match in Israel, I knew that was surreal, but it didn't feel like anything at the time. It just felt like we're having a match, and Dad was there. But I knew, like, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. This is important, and I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. And so I was just trying to drink it in as best I could. And Dad said, he's like, drink it in. And afterwards, I was like, Dad, I tried as hard as I could just to drink every second in, like every moment.
Yeah.
And
he was a fire hose from
he's time, like, that's what life's about.
Yeah. It's drinking from a fire hose.
I was just like, what's going on?
Marshall, let me ask you this. So you've got a lot of, I mean, now that you guys are getting ready to get back at it, I mean, you're healed up. Who would you like to see? What other factions or teams would you like to see raise their hand to challenge for the titles that you guys and Dustin hold?
6-man wasn't in the I guess in the cards for us. So the fact that we're even here is just crazy.
Sure.
But it feels right. It feels like it makes a lot of sense too. And so I love that. But I want to get my hands on FTR just because they are one of the greatest tag teams, I believe, in pro wrestling currently right now. And if they can find a third guy, great. And I know they got friends. They got friends all inside the locker room. But I just I want to see what Ross and I are made of. Ross and I wouldn't be coming to AEW if we really didn't think that we can offer something that no other tag team can offer. I really do believe that Ross and I have better chemistry than any tag team. This is like, it's my brother. We know each other better than any tag team. I can say that confidently. We know each other so well, and we're definitely closer. And like, these FTR, they're like the closest I've ever seen to brothers. They're extremely close. They're always together. The only other guys I ever met that were similar to Ross and I were the Briscoes, and we met at Ric Flair's retirement match. It was the first time I met two brothers that are like, okay, these guys they get it. They get it. It's, the world doesn't matter. I'm just with my brother right now. They have the same mentality. And so I was so happy we got to finally work with the Briscoes. But, these young tag teams too, the Top Flight, that's another, those guys are super impressive, great athletes. I know we'll probably mess around with them eventually, but also the new Rhodes boys, the Cody and Dustin's nephews, they're out there. They're getting their feet wet. They've debuted already, and we've got to meet them and hang out in the locker room. And it was so unbelievable, the similarities and just how we came up, and we were like long lost friends. It was crazy. It was like we were talking to ourselves in the past. It was so weird.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
And they knew it too. It really did. It was like, well, what would you want to tell yourself? And so we had like 2 hours of just talking. And so Ross and I, we know that day will come, and we can't wait to make them look great. I can't wait. Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
We've got several questions. You guys want to jump in on some of those and answer some questions from some fans?
Yeah, man.
Let's do it.
If you guys have a question, you can drop it to us anytime. It's theclawpod@gmail.com. First, we're going to go to Danielle. She said, a big hello to you all. I'm a huge Von Erich fan and so thrilled to see the exciting things that are happening for Ross, Marshall, and the family as a whole. Age-wise, I fall in line with the third generation, so this is incredible to see this kind of Von Erich intensity come back again. Here's the question. As you both develop more with AEW, social media, etc., how do you both find a balance to handle the intense demands of pro wrestling career and a life in general? Ross, let me throw that to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, especially because we kind of struggle with that as it is, and things aren't that crazy, at least as far as social media goes. That's why we're not the most responsive at times. But yeah, I mean, it's just like anything. It's a balance. It takes a little bit of time and work out the kinks, and then you figure out what works for you, and it's really all you can do. It's life, and you only get one take, and playing it one play at a time.
Priorities help a lot too.
Yeah,
set your priorities and stick to those. Will the guys? This is from Rebecca. Will the guys be at RCW from time to time?
Yes,
great relationship.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Oh, I got to call Brandon Ross. That's the RCW promoter. I just remembered that.
Shout out to Brandon.
I got to call
Mary has a question. Congrats on officially becoming All Elite. If you had to assemble 4 Texas AEW wrestlers to join y'all in a stable, who would they be and why? Thanks and God bless, Mary. Ross, you want to give us a couple of those 4? What do you think?
I'm going to throw Brian Keith's name out there in the hat, and then
I like him.
And then I know me and Marshall have a great relationship with EJ, the judge.
Yeah, man,
he's a stud.
Oh, I'm glad you said him.
Former
Lance Archer.
Yeah. The Murder Hawk.
Man, there's some
fellow Texan.
Yeah, there's some studs
and then
out there.
Sammy Guevara, we got Dustin. It depends on if Ross and I are we part of the 2, or we need 4 additional members.
4 additional members. You 2 and 4 additional.
Okay, yeah. I would have to go with Dustin, Keith, or Brian Keith. EJ would be awesome just because we want to get with him eventually anyways. And he's like a brother in Christ, Texan. He's all about it. And then it'd be between Sammy and
dude, everyone's saying Shibata's an honorary Texan. Have you been hearing that?
Okay, then Shibata. Man, I'll boot somebody for Shibata.
Does he live here now? Does Shibata live in Texas now?
I don't know about Texas. He's in the mainland. Is that right, Marshall?
No, so I asked him. I was like, "Are you live here now?" And he's like, "No, still Japan." And I was like, "You're like me, stubborn. Who cares about the flight? I'm staying home. I don't care."
Exactly. We've got a few from Instagram in here as well, from Michael. In honor of Tana's retirement, how much would it mean to challenge for the Never Six Man, Ross?
Oh man, that'd be obviously a huge title to hold. If not now, then at some point. But that'd be massive. We'd be huge. Enjoy doing that.
And another set of belts that we've had our eyes on are I don't want to butcher the name, but Dad and Uncle Dave held them. But
cool.
I don't know if it was Uncle Kerry with them, but it was the Asian All Japan belts, the Asian something. I forget. I don't know if it was a 6-man or the tag belts, but someone brought that question to us. And so that was like 2012. And so Ross and I always thought it would be cool to win belts in All Japan just from the history.
Yeah, that would be cool. Marshall, I'll ask you this one. When's the next televised event? By the way, really enjoyed the podcast. It's from Coach JCB97. When is the next time you guys are planning on being on TV for AEW? Do you have that yet?
No, I don't have that. I wish I did. We're waiting for our schedules, but AEW should be going to Texas soon, and I don't think they'll forget us. Hope
well,
not.
I know February, I mentioned this last week too, February 11th, Dynamite will be at the HEB Center in Cedar Park, Texas. Now, I don't think you can have that event and not have the Von Erichs on the card, especially when you can just hop in your car and drive to it and drive back home.
Yeah.
And we also had Tracy ask that same question. So hopefully that one answer, I don't know, answers both of your questions there. Let's see here. Do you think the 6-man titles will become more and more important in wrestling as it goes along, Ross?
Yes, I think so. I think especially when you have guys that can and storylines that can bring more legitimacy to it. I think it's in our unique situation with Dustin, just having the family history and stuff, going into it. I think that kind of helps build it up a little bit, but I think there's so much that you can do in a 6-man. It's just a lot of room for,
and there is matches. A big storyline there with us too. This is like we're saying, this is ordained by God. We didn't write these storylines. That's why I know it's going to be something that's never been done and can't be recreated because it's from him. But we didn't pick for them to make a movie on our family. We didn't pick for my dad to have the past that he had. We didn't pick to be almost like spokesman for like suicide prevention and stuff. Like we're getting these roles that we didn't know we'd ever be a part of, but that's just the Christian walk, walking with God. And it's an exciting life because you don't know what's next. You really don't know what's next. And I do believe that and at least for the product, I feel like it does better for the product, but Ross and I truly believe that we are going to get brought to the top because there's something even bigger than pro wrestling after this. And sure. You can mark our words. Something bigger is coming after this. And in order for us to get to that point, we have to do a lot of butt kicking and wrestling and do good at it, And so we know that will happen. We do.
Well, I've got one more question. I think it's a perfect one to round out our chat on 6-man tags. And that is your favorite 3-man tag team besides anyone in your family. Now, it has to be three men. Who is it?
Let's see.
3-man team. Okay.
Marshall,
I always stink at these off the top. Yeah, no crap. You let me go first. God.
Yeah, no. Okay. No, this is one of those ones where you think of the best one like right after we're off. You're like,
yeah, of course. When we finish, right?
I'm gonna go just because. I mean, it's kind of a generic. It makes me look like a bandwagoner kind of, but I'm gonna say DX just because the impact they had on pro wrestling at that time was so nuts, and they actually made pro wrestling cool. I thought at that time too, which was really, really cool. Because I mean, you go any school and all the kids are doing the suck it. And it made my mom hate wrestling.
It made every mom hate wrestling.
It did get a lot of kids into wrestling. Yeah, I made every mom hate wrestling. Actually,
it got a lot of kids in detention as well. Yeah,
100%. I can't tell you how many kids. Oh no,
Marshall, if you go for DX, Ross, do you just have to say NWO?
I mean, that seems like the logical choice. I mean, how who else could you?
I know where you live, dude.
Of course.
Careful.
Yeah. Chime in with your favorite. Now, this being a Von Erich podcast, it's got to be someone who's not a Von Erich. So chime in with your best three-man crew, and we'll share some of those next week when we kick off the podcast. Thank you guys for joining us this week. A lot of fun talking about six-man tags. Congratulations that you guys will be defending those titles hopefully very, very soon, if not before February 11th, assuming you will be a part of February 11th and the reason I say that date, it's right here close where we all are in Texas. Now, I know Texas is a massive state, but the HEB Center is not far from the Von Erichs, and HEB Center is in Cedar Park, just north of Austin, Texas. If you're anywhere close, jump on AEWTix.com and get your tickets and come join us all. We'll all be there, and would love to see some of you at that event. It'd be a lot of fun to be there at AEW in Cedar Park at HEB Center. That is February 11th. You want to
We're
check
showing up regardless.
Even if you're not booked, even if we got to buy a ticket to get in, we'll be there, right?
This makes sense, man.
I'm buying a freaking ticket. I'll be there, guys.
You'll be there. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for joining us this week. If you have a question for the guys, drop it to our email. It's theclawpod@gmail.com, or just drop a comment right here on this episode. We'll get it. We'll read it. We'll share it here on the podcast next week. If you're watching right now, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. If you're listening right now, subscribe and give us a review. We appreciate that a lot. This is only episode number 2. There is a lot to get to, a lot in store, and we're excited that you guys are going to be here for it. Thank you so much for joining us for the Claw Pod this week.